What's up, guys? Jacob Owens here for the Buff Nerds, and we got Tom Tower here, DP extraordinaire. And today we're going to tell you our top 5 tips, tricks for shooting a music video. The 5 things you absolutely must do to get the best music video possible. Number one
is location. Location is everything. Honestly, like, we've been at tech scouts where, you show up the day before or the week before and you check out the location, and it's super helpful when you can arrive and you can just see all of your shots come to life. It's one thing when you pop in your earbuds, you listen to the song and you envision in your head, and if you get to a location and it's not what you imagine, it can make your video go from
Well, and you can take the same idea for a video, and if you have this really cool location, the video is going to look awesome. You shoot that same idea, the exact same idea, but in a location that's not like that location, and it's very it's weak, it's plain, there's not a lot of depth to it, whatever. The videos are going to be night and day just based off the location. The idea is going to be the exact same, but the video is going to feel and look different just off location. So location is everything. Go out, search for locations. There's a couple of places online that you can find good locations in LA locally, like Peerspace and Gigster are a few. Sometimes you can get places off Airbnb if you message the host. So those are like 3 little online sites. I'll link them in the description below that you can reach out and find some cool locations and spaces. Tip number 2.
Cool. Tip number 2 is camera stability and movement. There's a huge difference when you're going through your shot list between a shot that is handheld, a shot that is on sticks, a shot that is on a gimbal or a Steadicam or a crane, and honestly, knowing when to use certain movement. I mean, not every video is handheld, not every video is sticks, so listen to the song, and I think that usually dictates sort of how you want to do camera movement. If you're doing an R&B video, it doesn't make sense to do a shaky handheld video. And if you're doing a hip-hop video, then handheld might make a lot more sense.
Absolutely. I always tell people, camera movement, move the camera to the beat and rhythm of the song. If the song has a lot of energy and bounce to it, give it some bounce, give it some movement. But if it's a calm and smooth song, don't sit there and rock the camera and move it around. So think critically about what the song sounds like and the mood and tone of the song, and use that camera movement to enhance it and not, bring it down and completely, be on opposite spectrums there. So camera movement and the stability of your camera are super important for achieving a good quality music video look. Tip number 3
is frame rate and shutter angle.
So when you're shooting something that has a lot of high energy, if you boost up your shutter speed, it'll kind of give, what's the movie? Saving Private Ryan. It's a very raw, just visceral look to it, and that's because they cranked up the shutter. So if the song has a lot of energy, crank up that shutter, get a little more raw look. If it's something a little more, cinematic and smooth, take that shutter down to 48. If your camera can do 48, if it can't, like a DSLR, then sit it around 50.
And a good rule of thumb, and we talk about this in a book that we wrote, that we linked in the description below, but whatever your frame rate is, just times that by 2, and that's your shutter. So if you're shooting at 24 frames a second, your shutter angle will be 1/48,
right?
And that's called 180 degrees. But if you want to sharpen it, like he was saying, if you shoot at 24 frames, you would shoot at a 1/120 or a 1/144, and that makes it higher and therefore sharper.
Right, and again, touching on what Tom said, whatever your frame rate is, you want to double that. So if you're shooting 60 frames a second slow motion, trying to get good slow motion, you're going to double that, and you're going to put your shutter at 120. That's how you're going to get the smoothest slow motion. So that's also something to really consider, and I think a lot of beginners don't realize and don't do, and then they get amateurish looking videos.
And just rule of thumb, if you do crank up your shutter, you actually do lose light. So if you're doing something that's very low light scene, that might be a little tricky. Maybe you have to adjust by opening up the aperture or boosting the ISO. So quick rule of thumb, if you're going to change your shutter angle past 180, you will lose a couple light or stops of light. But yeah.
Yep. Tip number 4.
Tip number 4 is angles or coverage. Going into a music video, it makes no sense to just shoot one wide shot and call it good. You don't want to get in the edit and the artist's like, all right, cool, man, where's the close-up? And you're like, oh, well, I only did one wide of you, doing your performance shot. Always go into it and plan and shoot to edit. Go in for a wide, get a medium, get a close. I mean, even overshoot if you can, because you want to get in the edit and have options.
Right. Yeah, and the biggest thing is to have options when you're editing. You don't want to have one scene where you have one angle and nothing else to cut to. So again, the more variety of angles that you can shoot an artist from, that you can cut to, it's going to make your video more interesting and less boring, because the audience is always kind of seeing something new. People today have such short attention spans, so you want to constantly be introducing new angles, new shots to keep the audience glued to the screen.
Something we try and do per performance take on, say, like a hip hop video, is go into it with 24 frames a second take and then a slow-mo take.
Yeah.
And then when you do a slow-mo take, play the record in the background, just tell them to vibe out, and don't actually have them sing it. And that's just a great little thing, so you can intercut into the performance shots, like a slow-mo shot of him kind of bobbing.
Get some B-roll.
Exactly. So plan and just get the coverage slow-mo and 24 frames a second.
Last but not least, tip number 5.
We think this one's pretty important and often overlooked. We think color correction or color grading is our 5, or what we think is like the top 5 most important.
Color correction is super important because a video can, I think, live or die by color. If it has a terrible color correction, then you can take beautiful footage and just make it look like crap. And that's it. You work hard to shoot it a certain way, light it a certain way, and then if you color it poorly, it just looks bad and amateurish and not visually pleasing to the eye, and it can just ruin your whole thing. So color correction is super important.
It's cool. We actually linked up recently with a new startup company that sells like filmmaking assets. Their name is Tropic Color. I'm sure you've seen both of us talk about it on social media. And really, there's no excuse. Their stuff is really, really affordable. We've used it on our last few projects. They have like vintage LUTs. They have teal and orange LUTs. I'm a big fan of that one. And honestly, if you have Premiere Pro, Final Cut X, Resolve, it all works great with like log C or neutral profiles, and it's awesome.
Yeah, for a lot of people that have trouble with color correction, LUTs are kind of an easy thing. You can just apply a LUT and tweak it a little bit if necessary, but a lot of people struggle with color correction, and so LUTs are kind of a good thing for beginners or amateurs, who are trying to learn the editing and coloring process and might not be the best at it. So we highly recommend Tropic Color. Not only are they really good, but they're also very affordable for like independent filmmakers, videographers, and stuff like that. Alright guys, so that was our 5 tips for shooting and creating the best music video you possibly can. Hopefully these tips were helpful to you guys and you guys learned something.
Yeah, honestly, if this is just sort of like grazing across our top 5, but we really do go in depth in the book that we wrote. Also, if you really enjoyed this video, we plan on doing, and let us know in the comments below if this is something you guys would want, but we were going to do a whole video just on like just the lighting and just like sort of more the camera stuff, but this was just an overall touching on like the 5 most important things that we use when we shoot music.
Yeah, we want to do a lot more videos like breaking down, lighting or lighting tricks, or behind the scenes breakdowns and different things. So if there's certain things you want to see, comment below so we know like, hey, people want to see this, and so we can do that and check that out and give you guys that content. And again, like Tom said, we have a 127-page guide manual from everything from shooting and camera settings to like how to find clients and write contracts and invoices and getting money on YouTube and Amazon and just everything that you would need to know as a filmmaker. So again,
check in the description.
Link in the description. Appreciate y'all for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'm out. Are you out, Tom?
Outro.
All right. Peace, guys.